What is up? Welcome back to Make It Stick. We are now jumping into Anki, our flashcards system. All right, we've got 7 flashcards due. Let's go. What is interleaved practice and why is it more effective than block practice? Interleaved practice is mixing up different skills or subjects within a single study session. It's more effective than blocked practice because it leads to developing better discrimination skills. It leads to more cognitive effort and more retrieval flexibility than block practice, which is very similar to mass practice in the end. It's mixing up different problem types or skills in a session. It builds discrimination and retrieval flexibility, leading to stronger, more durable learning. Cool. What are the 8 sections of Chapter 3 Mix Up Your Practice? The myth of mass practice, space practice, interleaved practice, varied practice, developing discrimination skills, improving complex mastery for medical students. These principles are broadly applicable. The takeaway. Good. What are 7 tools/habits for calibrating your judgment? Testing and retrieval, peer instruction. What else can I think of? Simulations, mistakes made in the field through experience, apprenticeships and teams, corrective feedback and peer feedback, and then what am I missing? Pay attention to what you're judging or how you are judging how well you're learning. That is what cues. Pay attention to what cues you are using to judge what is the main idea of Chapter 5 in one sentence? And Chapter 5 is avoid illusions knowing. Basically, objectively accurate self-understanding of one's current level of skills and knowledge and weaknesses and where they are is critical for learning, and that heuristics, biases, illusions, memory distortions all can essentially decrease or pollute our objective understanding of our own skills, weaknesses, and knowledge. Okay, hold on. Avoid illusions of knowing. All right. Objectively accurate understanding of one's strengths and weaknesses, what he does and doesn't know, is critical for continuous improvement/learning. But this understanding is easily led astray from cognitive biases, illusions, memory distortions, and faulty narratives from our evolutionary ancestral brain, as well as common study techniques. All right, again. What is fluency and why is it deceptive in learning? Fluency is basically the ease and speed of processing, cognitive processing of something. It's deceptive in learning because it is mistaken for mastery when it often isn't. Ease of processing material. Fluency, familiar. Yeah, okay, good. I'll say good on that. What are the 2 systems of knowing according to Kahneman? You got the automatic system 1, and you got the controlled system 2. Automatic, intuitive, fast, versus controlled, deliberate, more reflective, more reasoning, deliberation, methodical. Good. What is an illusion knowing? An illusion of knowing is essentially a mirage. It's mistaking, it's thinking you know something or mastered something when you haven't. A false sense of mastery often caused by a feeling of familiarity or fluency. Say again, because I missed that second part. Okay. Here we go. What are 7 tools / habits for calibrating your judgment? Testing and retrieval, peer instruction, pay attention to the cues by which you're judging whether you're learning or not, or how well you're learning, corrective feedback / peer feedback, apprenticeship / teams, simulations, and mistakes made in the field through actual experience. Good. And what is the main idea of Chapter 5, Avoid Illusions of Knowing, in what sentence? The main idea of Chapter 5, that is going to be objectively accurate self-understanding of one's skills and weaknesses, strengths and weaknesses, what he does and doesn't know, is critical for continuous learning and improvement. However, this understanding is easily led astray through faulty narratives, cognitive biases, illusions, and memory distortions, as well as faulty study technique, or as well as common study techniques. I'll just get rid of that evolutionary ancestry, as well as common study techniques. Here we go. Cool. What is illusion owning? An illusion owning is a false sense of mastery, often stemming from a feeling of familiarity or fluency. Awesome. Now we're done with our flashcards for the day. Now that we've done that, man, I'm just tired today a little bit. We're going to outline the next chapter, enter that flashcard into Anki, and then we will likely have time to go ahead and get started with chapter 6. So, chapter 6 is Get Beyond Learning Styles. Cool. And what are we looking at for our chapter outline? Chapter 6, Get Beyond Learning Styles. Active learning from the get-go. Active learning from the get-go. And this is a long, big section to start it out. Successful intelligence. Dynamic testing. Structure building. Rule versus example learning. That's interesting. I'm gonna write down a question. What is rule versus example learning? Well, I guess we don't need to really ask that question, because by the time we get to that section, I'll say, what is this section about? And we'll summarize it. The takeaway. All right. Let's now double check the takeaway. Rule versus example learning, structure building, dynamic testing, testable intelligence, active learning from the get-go. Yep. All right. So now we're going to plug that into a new Anki deck. So create deck. And that's going to be called Chapter 6, Get Beyond Learning Styles. Cool. And now we go in here and we add a flashcard. Let me say, what are the 6? Subsection or sections of chapter 6, which is Get Beyond Learning Styles. Cool. So we got active learning from the get-go. We've got successful intelligence, dynamic testing. We've got structure building. We've got rule versus example learning, and the takeaway. All right. Add that as a new card. And there we go. Now we are ready to continue moving through this book into chapter 6. What will we start out with? We'll start out with, before reading. Here we go. Come on now. We'll say, what is this chapter about? Okay, and so I'll be back to recall in a bit. All right, so just started the chapter, finished reading the introduction, and then started the first section. So the introduction, really, the big point was people do learn differently. People have different preferences for learning. There are differences that matter in learning, but however, the traditional idea is that these learning styles, people receive and process information differently, and this is what is called their learning style. Some people are more hands-on, some are visual, some are auditory, some are verbal, etc. And that the traditional thinking is sticking with one preferred learning style leads to an advantage in learning and better learning, and straying away from one's learning style, using resources that are not in the one's preferred learning style, this leads to disadvantages in learning and slower and worse learning. The central argument of this chapter is going to be that the authors are going to argue that people do have learning preferences. However, sticking with one's preferred learning style or preference does not seem to lead to better learning. Okay? So this chapter's character, there's always a character in each of these chapters, kind of illustrate the points. This is Bruce Hendry. Bruce Hendry. He was born in the 40s, and they're talking about him as like a self-made entrepreneur and businessman, all these little things he did as a kid to make money. He was very, broke a lot of rules and didn't care, made a lot of money, or maybe not a lot of money, but as a kid was making a lot of money doing, all these different jobs, paper route, buying, flipping things. There's a story of him going to a state over to buy illegal fireworks and come back to his home state and sell them to the other paper boys. So kind of just framing his story. That's what this first section, active learning from the get-go, has been about. High demand and short supply. That's what he's maybe that's what they're talking about with the fireworks, that he's learning about. High demand, short supply. You can make a lot of money with it. So that's it for today. I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.